Should we be more worried about the government or more worried about big tech, Google, stealing our data?
If big tech is collecting the honeypots, that's where it's going to happen. And recently, thanks to companies like Palantir, the government is getting better at collaborating with the big tech.
So maybe the distinction between government and big tech is maybe not really there if they're all basically the same thing.
They're getting better at collaborating with each other.
Privacy in Motion explores how your personal data fuels billion-dollar systems, while examining who controls the rules of digital privacy and what it truly means to own and protect your identity.
General public, I don't always think that privacy and security are always top of mind against chance to make tons of money on meme coin. We're seeing like a large influx of institutions interested in Bitcoin DeFi, and one of their major concerns, or their two major concerns, are security and privacy.
I'm interested in this concept of privacy around Bitcoin. The Cypherpunks really believed in privacy as kind of a core message, a core reason for having Bitcoin. How do you feel that the message now about privacy is getting out there in crypto? Are people caring about this as much as they used to? What do you think?
I think it's definitely less. It's more muted. We're seeing some ideas at early stages around, can we just take Bitcoin, which is now almost becoming like a standard, and apply some sort of privacy solutions on top of Bitcoin? So you need programmability for it, like things like stacks and other L2s. But you can imagine that people move their Bitcoin into an L2 and get better privacy if they want over there. So I think we are seeing some initial ideas like that.
We've seen a lot of investment go into Bitcoin recently. How has that affected how people are thinking about Bitcoin as more than a store of value chain, as an L2?
Most of those investments are going for buying Bitcoin as a store of value, not just the ETFs, but also some of the public companies that are building Bitcoin treasuries. But I think it has a follow-on effect, because what's happening is that once these public companies have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, we are going to look at strategies for earning yield on this Bitcoin, or actively deploying it and figuring out how to maximize shareholder value. And I think that trend is where Bitcoin L2s start playing a role.
What about the payments use case on L2s?
So let's say if I want to route a $10,000 payment, every node on the way needs to have $10,000 of capacity just sitting there idle. So it's not very capital efficient. And for larger payments, like $10 million, you're probably not going to find any routes. Our architecture is very different. So Stacks L2 is more like a blockchain. So when you mint Bitcoin on the L2, it's called SBDC. It is fast, it's cheap, and you can pay any amount. You want to pay $100 million, you can pay $100 million.
Right.
It's fast and cheap, like using Solana. And I think that's the best of both worlds. And I'm very, very excited about that product.
People talk about cryptocurrencies as this they could be used by money launderers or drug dealers, but in reality, it's the most transparent public ledger in the world.
I think there's an interesting polarity between the way people present and then kind of the mechanism of the blockchain, because everything is set in stone. You can look up any transaction on the chain and it's there immutably. It's sort of a cypherpunk ideal, I think, to be untrackable and unnoticed.
So a lot of the time, even if you do just set up an account or a wallet, there's still a risk, because there's conversations around obviously certain blockchains and projects who aren't completely decentralized, and it's
right.
decentralized, so you're still putting yourself at risk in an industry that claims that it's all about putting the rights back into the hands of the people.
How do we get more privacy in the crypto economy, do you think?
We will start seeing a shift towards on-chain native economy. And I think that automatically leads to better privacy, even on a public chain.
Do you think we can really balance the needs of law enforcement and, stamping out something like North Korean hackers, as was the case with Tenor Cash, and have what we want in terms of privacy? Or are those two things just inevitably kind of in conflict?
I do think they're in conflict, but that's why I'm personally interested in finding some sort of a middle ground. Like the example I gave where there's a pool and there is someone that does KYC, and ideally they don't even store that information, right? Like they they do it, they issue some sort of an on-chain credential, and then these people are able to mix their Bitcoin. Practically speaking, it can actually benefit a lot of people. Like if you think about like the banking system, the government and the regulators have access to it. The courts have access to it. They can subpoena any time and get a list of like all your transactions.
Right.
But on a day-to-day basis, like I can't access your account, right? So your transactions are somewhat private, but the courts and the regulators can get access to it whenever they want to. So it's sort of like a compromise in a way, right? And whereas Bitcoin is just public by default. Right. And I think, personally speaking, I think trying to find some compromise that's actually better than the status quo, better than the current banking system, has strong cryptographic guarantees,
right,
could be a way to resolve that conflict a little bit.
The journey doesn't end when the bus stops. In a world where your data, your identity, and even your choices are constantly in motion, the question isn't who owns your future, it's whether you do.